namo Ramanaya, namo Ramanaya, namo Ramanaya, namo namo, namo Ramanaya, namo Ramanaya, namo Ramanaya, namo namo. Ramana Bhagavat Padam Bhoje Sada Ramatam Mano. Ramana Bhagavat Padam Bhoje Sada Ramatam Mano.
This is, though earnest, but a simple attempt, and I am afraid I may not be able to convince scholars. But whatever I felt in my heart of hearts, I have written down, and I seek your permission to read it out. There is this ancient saying about Arunachala, that is, to view Chidambaram, to be born in Tiruvarur, to die at Varanasi or Kashi, or even merely to think of Arunachala, is to be assured of liberation, mukti. Everywhere else you have to do some act. Here merely meditate or think in your heart of Arunachala. The final liberation is given. And the story of Bhagavan itself is a fulfillment and complete truth of this ancient saying. Ramana, Aruna, Ra in Ramana stands for A, Ma stands for U, Na stands for Ma, A, U, Ma, Om. Aruna also likewise, A, U, Ma, Om, Om, Om. Name and form, Nama and Rupa, are the fundamentals through which alone everything, material and spiritual, is understood by the human mind. Can you name, identify, or make another understand a thing without referring to it by a name or form? Impossible. Only, of course, in mystic experience can one transcend name and form, since there is only the experiencer there and he has no name or form. Of these, that is name and form, there are two deeper aspects as well: transcendental and immanent, nirguna and saguna. Transcendental nirguna, immanent saguna. For instance, Lord Shiva in his invisible and eternal being has his transcendental aspect, and in linga, in the form, he has the immanent aspect. In this sphere of speech, pranava, A, U, Ma, the mystic sound Om, represents the transcendental nirguna aspect, and Panchakshari, Namah Shivaya, the 5-syllabled mantra, represents the immanent saguna aspect. So, either in its nirguna aspect or saguna aspect, name has a very great importance and significance. The story of our hero, Ramana Arunachala, begins not with his death experience, but much earlier. Sri Ramana says in his Arunachala Ashtakam, from the age of innocence, Arunachala has been shining within me. What is the age of innocence? That is the age which comes before we can identify and understand persons and things of the world. The age of the unstuffed and uncorrupted mind. Before having the objective knowledge of the world, the only knowledge that shines in one is the knowledge of I am. This is the experience of everyone. For Bhagavan, this I am was throbbing within him as Arunachala. In Bhagavan's life, you all know, even though we do not know from when, but perhaps from his childbirth, this name Arunachala has been repeating itself in him, even though he did not know what it was. Even at the age of Suddha Manas, the heart throbbing of the name Arunachala started working in him. He knew even then that Arunachala was something very big. The only thing that he knew about that name was in a mysterious way that it was something very big. He did not know whether it was an object or the name of a place or name of a person. But still, he had the firm experience that it was something very big. The bliss of Arunachala filled and overflowed his youthful innocence. Later, while explaining the intricacies of Atma Vichara, Sri Bhagavan says, quote, "The merging of the small I with the big I is the ultimate fulfillment of liberation." The I that says, what is the little I? The I that says, I do, I run, I sleep, is the bundle of Chit and Jada, which identifies itself with objects beginning with one's own body. The I is the eternal being whose source and existence is the heart and thereby is the goal of all sadhana. So the search begins with the so-called small I and ends with aham, atmajnana, hridayam, the so-called big I. The big I, hridayam, the nirguna Arunachala, without form or characteristics, was what was throbbing in the infant Ramana, even before he reported his arrival to the Saguna Arunachala, that is before he came to Arunachala, in the form of the hill. What is that Saguna Arunachala? It is the form of the holy hill or lingam, and he said, in front of the lingam, which Bhagavan reported, I have come at your call. It was this same Nirguna Arunachala which had exploded and revealed itself in him through an act of death experience, and irresistibly drew him to the Saguna Arunachala, the holy hill, the Shiva himself, and finally absorbed him in the form of light. Ramana himself confirms Kailash in the Himalayas is only the abode of Shiva, whereas Arunachala hill is Shiva himself. The shooting star which streaked across the sky at the moment of the physical death of Ramana, it is important to note, went to the peak of Arunachala and merged in that bright hill of fire. Bhagavan defines Arunachala as Aruna, that is red or bright like fire, and Achala means hill. That's why it is called hill of fire. In the life of Bhagavan, written by Kavyaganta Ganapati Muni, which was unfortunately left incomplete, there is a reference to a blind old woman in the delivery room seeing a column of light at the time of birth of Ramana. So, at the time of physical death, this natal fire left Ramana's physical frame at the last moment and went back to holy Arunachala. The story of Ramana Arunachala thus began with a glowing light, continued by the throbbing in the body, in the boy, of the Nirguna aspect of Arunachala Nama, dragging him to the Saguna form of hill and making him unmoving all his lifetime, and finally absorbing him in the form of the light unto himself. So who is who? Is Ramana Arunachala or is Arunachala Ramana? First, let us see what is so great about Arunachala. Arunachala is a beautifully shaped hill belonging to the Eastern Ghats and situated about 120 miles southwest of Madras. Its height is 2,682 feet. There is a temple in front of it, also called Arunachala. It is an important pilgrim center. Its main attraction being the Kartikeya festival, which is conducted for 10 days, on the final day of which a great flame visible for miles around is lit on top of the hill. Many saints like Jnana Sambandha and Manikya Vachakar have sung in praise of this holy hill. Also, the Puranas claim that this sacred hill is the oldest creation on earth. Even the great geologists of today, through research, have established that the rock of Arunachala is the oldest granite in the whole world. This is how we will introduce Arunachala. This is how any one of us would introduce Arunachala to a fellow friend. But how does Bhagavan himself introduce this sacredness supreme to us? Bhagavan has written a beautiful verse in Tamil, which is very beautiful. Aduve talam, Arunachalam, talam yavilum adiham, adu bhumiyin idayam, ari aduve siva nidayam, padiyamarum arumattalam, padiyamavanadile, vadivanoli malayanidam Arunachalam enave. Aduve talam, Arunachalam. That is the holy place called Arunachala. Thalam yavilum adiham, most sacred of all holy places. Adu bhumiyin nidayam, it is the heart of the universe or world. Ari, adive siva nidaya padiyamarum arumattalam. No, it is to be the secret and sacred heart center of Shiva. Padiyamavanadile vadivanoli malayanidam Arunachalam enave. In that sacred place, he, that is Shiva, ever abides as the glorious hill. That is the holy place called Arunachala, most sacred of all holy places. It is the heart of the world. Know it to be the secret and sacred heart center of Shiva. In that sacred place, he ever abides as the glorious Aruna hill. In this, Sri Bhagavan clearly affirms that Arunachala is the holiest of the holy. He can say so emphatically because he is Arunachala Shiva himself. What more proof is necessary to hold Arunachala as the holiest than the stamp of authority issued by no less a person than Sri Ramana Bhagavan? After establishing that Arunachala is the holiest, Bhagavan explains why it is the holiest. Because, he says, it is the heart of the world. Because it is the secret and sacred heart center of the Lord Shiva. Thus, has Bhagavan thrown open, can even call it betrayed, the great mystic secret that Arunachala is the heart center. Seekers like us, we have to note this point very carefully. It is very important. Seekers after truth, pounce upon, devour, and make this truth your own. Perhaps it is to this act of betrayal that Bhagavan refers in the marital garland of letters, verse 98, wherein he says, I have betrayed thy secret workings. Be not offended. Show me thy grace. Now openly and say me, O Arunachala. I read it again. I have betrayed thy secret workings. Be not offended. Show me thy grace. Now openly and say me, O Arunachala. One could open up this secret, this heart center, which is Arunachala, only by how to know that, how to have that secret opened. Bhagavan himself gives a clue by knowing. He uses the word Ari in Tamil, and in another place Bhagavan has given the definition for Ari. Arivai ariyum arive arivu. Not merely this buddhi or intellect or everything put together. That what we know as knowledge or learning, arivi wisdom, that wisdom which knows all learning, that is arivu. And that you can get only in an intuitive, contemplative experience. So Bhagavan says, one could open up this secret, this heart center, which is Arunachala, only by knowing, by experiential knowledge gained by Atma Vichara. The last sentence with which he concludes is, in that sacred place, he ever abides as the glorious Aruna hill. You should know, that is Ari, experientially, you should know experientially that he ever abides in Arunachala. It is the key to the riddle of finding the eternal truth, the Shiva. Muruganar, Sri Muruganar, also in one place says, Arivodum Alvar Shivanula Alvare. There also I am sure he refers only to this experiential knowledge, not merely knowing it, though that's also the same. Ari means also knowing, and also as used by Bhagavan. We will take only the definition as used by Bhagavan. That is, Arivai, Ariyum, Arive, Arivu. That knowledge, that wisdom behind what all we know. In this cryptic but tremendously important verse, Sri Bhagavan not only beautifully but aptly introduces his chosen deity, his father, also emphasizes the significance of the method to realize him. That's the beauty of Bhagavan. He doesn't merely quote, he doesn't merely say a statement and leave it there. He completes the whole process, starts from A and completes it only after he has reached the Z. He tells something and then supports it with how to do it, how to attain it. He doesn't merely show the final goal, but he always guides us, takes us along with himself to the goal. Sri Ramana alone can introduce, describe and bring out this secret and sacredness of Arunachala. The beauty of this is that the verse now quoted by me, though taken from Arunachala Mahatmya, was written by Bhagavan himself in Tamil. From the same Arunachala Mahatmya, the following 4 verses as coming from the mouth of Shiva have also been written by Bhagavan himself in Tamil. I quote those 4 verses because it is very, very sacred and very important. Though in fact fiery, my lackluster appearance as a hill on this spot is an effect of grace and loving solicitude for the maintenance of the world. Here I always abide as the great one Siddha. Remember that in the interior of my heart is transcendental glory, with all the enjoyments of the world also. He has mentioned all the enjoyments of the world also. Some devotee had a little doubt. So, this devotee questioned Bhagavan whether Arunachala is a Bhagakshetra also. Bhagavan replied, if mere thought of Arunachala can itself give mukti, what wonder if it can give all other enjoyments one may desire. Then I come to the second verse. This glorious Arunachala is that of which the mere sight suffices to remove all demerits which divide up being into egos and finite worlds. Third verse, what cannot be acquired without endless pains, the true import of Vedanta, is easily attained by all who can either directly sight this hill or even mentally think of it from afar. Some of my friends were asking how to practice self-inquiry, how to follow Bhagavan's method. Bhagavan himself says, come and have a sight of Arunachala, you will get it. Fourth verse, what cannot be acquired, the endless pains, the true import of Vedanta is easily attained by all who can either directly sight this hill or even mentally think of it from afar. Fifth verse, I ordain that residence within a radius of 3 yojanas, that is 30 miles, of this hill shall by itself suffice to burn off all the defects and effect union with the Supreme, even in the absence of initiation. Though these were quoted as from Shiva, these are authoritative guarantees from Bhagavan himself, as most of the old devotees can vouchsafe. In the invocatory verse to Dakshinamurti Stotra, Sri Bhagavan writes, that Shankara who appeared as Dakshinamurti and who revealed his state of silence abides in me. He was asked by a devotee whether he composed the invocatory verse to Shiva as coming from Shankaracharya, claiming that Shiva abided in him, or whether Bhagavan himself claimed that Shiva abided in him. Bhagavan replied, everything is Shiva only. It's again worth noting that once when devotees were singing Ramana Sadguru, a long hymn in praise of Ramana, Bhagavan also joined them in the refrain chorus. One devotee, surprised by Bhagavan praising his own glory, asked him about it. Bhagavan replied firmly, everything is Ramana only. It is thus clear that Ramana, the Atma Tattva, is none other than Arunachala, the Shiva Tattva. Let us look into the story of Arunachala as told in the Arunachala Mahatmya, which is part of the Skanda Purana. Brahma, the Lord of creation, and Vishnu, the divine sustainer of it, were quarreling about their status. Which one of them was the greater? Their dispute created disorder in the universe. Between the quarreling gods, there appeared suddenly a column of light like a huge pillar, and it announced, he who shall find the top or the bottom of me shall be deemed the greater of the two. Vishnu took the form of a boar and went digging into the earth to find the bottom. Brahma soared up, wild to find the top. They could not succeed. Vishnu understood that the commandment had a deeper meaning, gave up the effort, and started meditating. Brahma, troubled by the thought that Vishnu might be successful in his quest, became envious. Just then, a heavenly flower fell from the sky. Brahma grasped it and said that he had found it on top of the column. Appearing before them, the Supreme Lord blessed Vishnu for his truth and devotion, but cursed Brahma for telling a lie. Then the two gods prayed to the Lord to withdraw his effulgence and let the column of fire assume a form, a rupa, which could be easily seen and worshipped. Graciously the Lord withdrew the light form and assumed and remained in the form of the holy hill with the name of Arunachala, which every one of us even today see, worship, go round and pray. It was also ordained then that those who come to it or even turn to it in their heart will be blessed in this life and attain liberation. Every year at the festival of Kartikeya, a beacon of fire is lit on the summit of Arunachala as a reminder of its real nature as a column of fire. What is the symbolism behind this myth? Here, Shiva, the destroyer, is the self or enlightenment, the destroyer of illusion of a separate individual being. Vishnu, the sustainer, the preserver, is the ego sense, ahankara, preserver of the individual being, stringing all its moments together into an apparent entity. He delves down into himself, seeking in vain for the truth of being. Brahma, the creator, is the mind, buddhi, which falsely assumes the creative function, soars aloft into the ideas and theories, even receives an intuition fallen from the paradise and claims wrongly that it is enlightenment. Thus, the real significance of Arunachala is to destroy the ahankara, or ego of those who turn to it. This teaching is wholly reflected from beginning to end in the life and teachings of Bhagavan. Just thinking of Arunachala totally destroyed the sense of I and mine in him, and the boy Venkataraman was transformed into Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. This is a clear demonstration of the ancient faith that if one thinks of Arunachala, release is assured in this life itself. Therefore, the spiritual truth behind the story of Arunachala is that if one searches for the truth by annihilating the buddhi and ahankara, final realization is achieved instantaneously. Apply this to the teaching of Ramana. Sri Bhagavan was born on Arudra Darshan Day, which is the sacred day on which the column of light was brought into the form as Arunachala hill. The aim of Ramana's advent also likewise was to revive and resurrect the path of Vichara, which ends in the destruction of the ego, leading to the destruction of all attachments and enabling one to realize the final state of realization, liberation. What Arunachala, by standing unmoving, preached to the gods, Vishnu and Brahma, Bhagavan taught by not stirring out of Arunachala for 54 years, ever since he came to it and successfully brought to even the ordinary man like me reach the truth of enlightenment. At least he has shown the path, he has guided me. In his marital garland of letters, Aksharamana verse 90, Sri Bhagavan addresses Arunachala. I have called you Ramana, Lord, be not offended. And here he christens Arunachala with the name of Ramana. In the last verse, while begging Arunachala to put his garland around his neck, mystic bridal union, he refers to himself as Arunachala Ramana. Also in the supplement to Arunachala Pancharatnam, he has written a verse revealing who Ramana is. The verse I read out. Arunachala Ramana is the supreme being who sports within the lotus hearts of all beings, beginning with Hari, that is Lord Vishnu, in the form of consciousness. If one enters with a heart melting with devotion, the abode in which the Supreme Being is shining, his eye of knowledge will be opened and he will become consciousness itself. The truth will become clear to him. I once again repeat with a purpose. Like the Arunachala standing still and through his silence drawing the gods to him and destroying their ego, Sri Ramana staying in Arunachala unmoving and through his silent influence drew thousands of devotees to him made them go within through self-inquiry, and after destroying their ego, bestowed on them the eternal bliss of divine presence. Instead of giving more and more details of stories, myths and facts of Arunachala to prove its glory and grandeur, I venture to quote a brilliant reply answer of Bhagavan's, which throws light on the truth of Arunachala. This is published in Ashram publication, Ramana Pictorial Souvenir, written by Dr. T.N. Krishnaswamy. Sri Bhagavan says, quote, someone from abroad has written asking for a stone from the most sacred part of the hill. Bhagavan was on the hill. While coming down from the hill, he saw some office staff struggling on the way. So he asked what was the matter. Then he said, we have received a letter from abroad asking for a stone from the most sacred part of the hill. For that, Bhagavan gives this reply. Bhagavan says, someone from abroad has written asking for a stone from the most sacred part of the hill. He does not know that the whole hill is sacred. It is Shiva himself. Just as we identify ourselves with the body, so Shiva has chosen to identify himself with this hill. Arunachala is pure wisdom in the form of a hill. It is out of compassion to those who seek him that he has chosen to reveal himself in the form of a hill visible to even our mortal eyes. The seeker will obtain guidance and solace by staying near this hill. This was the reply. This was Bhagavan's own words. That Ramana had intense devotion to Arunachala is amply proved by his frequent circumambulation of the holy hill, Giri Pradakshina, and advocating his devotees to do so countless number of times. His outpourings, Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, 5 hymns to Arunachala, are classical masterpieces par excellence in the field of devotional poetry, said Mr. Arthur Osborne. These wonderful verses also prove that he took the hill as the Lord in a form, Saguna worship. Refer to verse 3 of Arunachala Ashtaka, wherein he says, when I approach regarding you as having form, you stand as this hill on earth. Once some devotee asked Bhagavan, we know that God is all-pervading and all that spiritual definitions of God. But can you show us a God in the physical form? Then Bhagavan showed behind him to the hill. He said, what else is this? So Arunachala hill is God himself. When I approach regarding you as having form, you stand as this hill on earth. In addition, in verse 19 of the marital garland of letters, he says, making me free from faults and being worthy of you, shine as my guru. Here he categorically refers to Arunachala as his guru. Thus, for Ramana, Arunachala is the divine Spurana within to begin with. Arunachala is something big. Next stage. Arunachala is the Father. Father, I have come at your call. Arunachala is God. Arunachala is Sadguru. Arunachala is Aham, self. Arunachala is Ramana. Hence, Ramana is Arunachala.